Alright, what's up guys? Let's hop right into the video. Today we're talking about SARMs. More specifically, we're talking about Ostarine 2866. So let's figure out, does it work? Alright guys, so first off, I want to make sure you checked out my other video. It's a full breakdown of SARMs. I'll have it linked in the description and annotated at the end of the video. But it's going to give you a full breakdown of basically what SARMs are, what they do, the benefits, the side effects, all that good stuff. Watch that one and come right back here. So we can categorize SARMs in a few different ways. You've got your bulking, your recomposition SARMs, and your leaning ones. And Ostarine would be categorized as like a bulking or a recomposition SARM. Basically, recomposition is when you try to reduce as much muscle loss while getting as lean as possible. You're kind of balancing yourself out. And obviously bulking, you're just worried about getting that, that muscle growth. And then leaning, obviously, getting that body fat down, getting really chiseled down to that, 8%. So as far as the studies that have been done with Ostarine, we can see that during bulking phases in the fitness industry, users have reported 7 pounds of increase in muscle mass in only 8 weeks. Now, those are some pretty incredible gains. I mean, putting on 7 pounds of lean muscle mass in only 8 weeks is pretty impressive. There's also been reports for fat mass decreases as well as some strength increases. So that's what someone could expect from using Ostarine or MK2866. You can expect both fat loss, muscle gain, and strength gain benefits. Now that sounds super appealing, but there are some side effects that you need to take into account when you're doing any kind of cycle, whether it's supplements, SARMs, steroids, anything like that. Now on Tiger Fitness, which is a website I've linked before because they've got really good SARMs information and they do really well breakdowns, they say here on their site, HPG axis suppression and elevated estradiol levels. Now those are two significant side effects, both of which can be reported to have gone away within 3-week period of PCT, and that's another thing that's really important with Ostarine, is you need to make sure that you're getting the right PCT after your cycle so that your body can recover and get back to its normal levels. So as we talked about in the SARMs overview video, essentially the difference between SARMs and the real steroids that you might normally think about, SARMs come into contact with the androgen receptors in your brain, which leads to the male sex hormone and other hormones in your body such as testosterone that are going to increase your ability to get bigger faster. The difference between SARMs and other chemicals that are active with androgen receptors is that SARMs are selective in that instead of going to the androgen receptors to your entire body and releasing it everywhere, it only does work in places where muscle growth is relevant. So for example, you're not going to get side effects, like in your stomach growing, stuff like that, whereas you might with human growth hormone, other steroid stuff. There's also a lot of good information on the website Protein Factory. I'll link that one below. Here, they say MK2866 works in the same way to other selective androgen receptor modulators. Specifically, it selectively impacts various receptors to target various developmental factors inside the body. And that's essentially what we've been talking about. It's selective in which it chooses to affect the androgen, thereby how much of that hormone you end up releasing in your body. Another thing I want to bring you guys through with Ostarine is the stackability that it has. Now here's another piece from Tiger Fitness's website. As you can see here, we've got our recomp, which is essentially gaining as much muscle you can and losing as much fat as you can at the same time and not focusing on just cutting or just bulking at once. This one, it's really good with another SARM called GW50-15-16. And that one's gonna be good for fat loss and endurance. So that comes into the leaning part of the recomposition. As for muscle development, that gets you to those larger muscles, and that's the other side of recomposition. Now you stack these with Ostarine and you're just gonna basically amplify the effects of each other. As far as cutting, if you're just focused on cutting 100% by itself, Ostarine and Andarine are two really good SARMs that people often find results from stacking. Now, Ostarine is known, as it says here, avoid and treat muscle wasting. That's going to allow you to use a SARM like Andarine with similar properties of eliminating that muscle loss when you're cutting, and just stack those together and you're just going to basically get a little bit more power from those supplements. Now for bulking. Ostarine works great on its own. The reason for that is if you think about how you use it in cutting, same as you would use like Andarine or S4. When you use something like Ostarine when you're cutting, or S4 or Andarine, it's going to reduce the amount of muscle that you lose. So when you're actually trying to bulk up and use those, it's going to be able to increase that muscle because it's letting it build back faster, it's letting it maintain its girth and all that. So there's definitely a lot of options, and I would recommend to look on the site because they've got recommended stacks for each individual SARM, how they play against each other, why this one is good with that one, what this one does. I mean, there's a whole nother realm of this stuff. The last and probably one of the most important things with any cycle is to make sure you do your PCT. You want to make sure after you're done with that cycle that you get your body back up to that peak performance and you just don't deplete all of your hormones and everything that you need to feel good and function throughout the day just because you didn't do your PCT. The nice thing about SARMs is you don't need to worry about as heavy as a PCT as you would for like real steroids, because with steroids they're much more extreme and there's much more places that things could go wrong. So longer PCT and stronger doses are necessary. But with SARMs, all you would really need is something like Nolvadex for 3 to 4 weeks, depending on what your dosage was. HC Generate ES is another popular PCT brand that you can hop on. Make sure you guys do your research and be safe. Alright guys, so that pretty much wraps it up for the most part. Basically, Ostarine, really good for recomposition. It's going to help you maintain muscle mass. When you're bulking, it's going to help you increase your muscle mass. It just kind of helps you to keep that solid fiber full muscle throughout your cycles. I hope you guys enjoyed. More SARMs videos coming soon. Lots of new content coming soon, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and leave a like if you like this video. I'll see you guys next time.